Imagine your sister stealing your husband's life insurance to fund her son's political campaign, then mocking your finances during her wedding toast at your own son's reception. But Elena timed the perfect revenge, exposing it all mid-toast. Hit like if you think family betrayers deserve public justice. You won't believe what happens next.
Thank you, Eliza, for having me. I've waited months to share this. After Dimitri's death, I couldn't stay silent anymore. Here's how it all unfolded. I'm watching the clock hit 7:58 p.m. when my sister Sofia taps her champagne flute with that smug smile I've learned to hate. The crystal chimes across the reception hall, and 200 wedding guests turn toward the head table where she stands in her overpriced Chanel suit, the one I now know my dead husband's money bought. "I'd like to toast my nephew Michael," Sofia begins, her voice carrying that theatrical projection she perfected during her failed acting career. "And to thank God my son is successful, unlike some people who can't manage their finances." Her eyes find mine across the room. The dig lands exactly as intended, a public humiliation disguised as wedding sentiment. I grip my champagne glass tighter, feeling the cool crystal against my palm, and watch the seconds tick by on the ornate grandfather clock by the dance floor. 2 minutes until 8:00 p.m. 2 minutes until justice. The guests laugh politely at Sofia's joke, not knowing they're witnessing the final moments before everything changes. My son Michael beams at his new wife, oblivious to the storm about to break. I smooth my navy mother of the groom dress, simple, elegant, exactly what a quiet widow should wear, and prepare to destroy my sister's life. Because Sofia has no idea who she's really dealing with, and in exactly 90 seconds, neither will anyone else. 4 years ago, Dimitri was still alive, and our kitchen still smelled like his morning coffee and the jasmine from our garden. I can picture it perfectly: the warm yellow walls, the worn wooden table where we'd spread out his financial papers every Sunday morning, his patient hands guiding mine across columns of numbers. "Look here, Agapimu," he'd say, his finger tracing the profit and loss statements. "This is how you read the real story, not what people tell you, but what the numbers tell you." I was 54 then, content to let my brilliant accountant husband handle our finances while I managed the household and worked part-time at the library. But Dimitri insisted I learn. "You're smarter than you think, Elena," he'd tell me, pressing a kiss to my temple. "You see patterns others miss. It's why you were such a good journalist before we married." That was our secret. That Elena, the quiet librarian, had once been E.K. Costas, the investigative journalist whose exposés had toppled 3 city councilmen in the 1990s. I'd retired the byline when Michael was born, choosing motherhood over headlines. But Dimitri never let me forget those skills. "Promise me you'll never let anyone take advantage of your kind heart, Elena," he said that last anniversary, his hands covering mine on the financial documents. "You have the tools to protect yourself. Use them if you need to." I promised, not knowing how prophetic those words would become. This morning, I stood before my bedroom mirror at 6 a.m., fastening the pearl necklace Dimitri gave me for our 20th anniversary. The navy dress hung perfectly, conservative, respectful, exactly what a grieving mother should wear to her son's wedding. I'd chosen it carefully, just like everything else about today. The morning light streamed through the lace curtains, illuminating the photos on my dresser. Michael graduating law school, Dimitri and me on our honeymoon in Santorini. The happy family portrait from 5 years ago, when Sofia still pretended to love me and I still believed family meant loyalty. I applied my lipstick with steady hands, thinking about the phone calls I'd made, the emails I'd sent, the careful timing that had taken months to orchestrate. Today wasn't just about Michael's happiness, though God knows I want my son to be happy. Today was about something else entirely. "A perfect day for Michael," I said to my reflection, practicing the serene smile I'd wear all day. "And for everyone else, a day of reckoning." The irony wasn't lost on me. While Sofia spent the morning at the spa, getting her hair and nails done for maximum camera readiness, I was making final preparations of my own. She thought she was preparing for a celebration. I was preparing for war. 8 months after Dimitri's funeral, I finally forced myself to check our insurance accounts. I'd been putting it off, letting grief and Sofia's helpful management keep me in the dark. Don't worry about the boring financial stuff, she'd said. Focus on healing. But healing meant facing reality. So I logged into the account that should have contained Dimitri's life insurance payout, $300,000, that was supposed to secure my future. The balance showed $47,000. I stared at the screen, certain I'd made a mistake, refreshed the page, checked the account number twice. But the numbers didn't lie, they never do, as Dimitri taught me. My hands shaking, I pulled up the transaction history. Transfer after transfer, each one authorized by someone with account access, someone I'd trusted completely. The transfers went to something called Papadakis Holdings LLC, a shell company I'd never heard of. But I recognized the authorization signature on every single transfer. Sofia Papadakis, my sister, my late husband's business partner, the woman who'd held my hand at his funeral and promised to take care of everything. $253,000. Gone, and Sofia's signature on every transfer authorization. I printed every page, my journalist instincts kicking in after 20 years of dormancy. This wasn't grief or confusion. This was theft. Systematic, calculated theft from a grieving widow by her own sister. 2 weeks later, I sat across from Sofia in her pristine living room, the printed bank statements spread between us like evidence at a crime scene. She'd barely glanced at them before launching into her performance. "Oh, Elena, you're so simple. These things are too complicated for someone like you to understand." She waved her manicured hand dismissively. "Those weren't transfers, they were investments. Dimitri wanted me to help grow your money." "Investments in what exactly?" "Real estate ventures, business opportunities. The market's been volatile. We've had some losses, but..." "Show me the paperwork." Sofia's perfectly composed face flickered for just a moment. "You're being emotional. This is exactly why Dimitri asked me to handle these matters. You're not thinking clearly." But I was thinking clearly. Clearer than I had in months. Every word out of Sofia's mouth was designed to make me doubt myself, to make me feel small and stupid and grateful for her help. "I want copies of all investment documents by Friday," I said, standing to leave. "Elena, your family, don't you trust me?" I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The designer handbag that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The fresh highlights that cost what I spent on utilities. The subtle renovations to her kitchen that had appeared shortly after Dimitri's death. "I'll see myself out," I said. That night, I opened my laptop and started investigating Papadakis Holdings LLC. Elena, the librarian, might have been fooled, but E.K. Costas was back in business. 1 month of digging revealed the truth that made my blood run cold. Papadakis Holdings LLC wasn't a real estate venture or business investment. It was a campaign finance vehicle for Sofia's son Alexis, my nephew, the golden boy who could do no wrong. The money trail was clear once I knew where to look. Shell Company receives insurance funds. Shell Company makes maximum legal donations to Alexis Papadakis for city council. Shell Company pays for campaign advertising, rally venues, staff salaries. My husband's death benefit had bankrolled an entire political campaign. I sat in my car outside City Hall, watching Alexis give a speech about fiscal responsibility and protecting our community's most vulnerable citizens, and felt something break inside me. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about using Dimitri's death, my grief, to fuel their ambitions. It wasn't just theft. It was a political conspiracy using my husband's death money. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd assumed Elena, the quiet widow, would never fight back. They'd forgotten that Elena, the investigative journalist, had spent years exposing exactly this kind of corruption. I drove home and began making phone calls to editors I'd worked with decades ago, to sources in city government, to journalists who owed me favors from the old days. The story was too good to ignore. Local politicians' campaign funded by money stolen from grieving widow. The family connection made it even juicier. By the time I finished my calls, I had something better than revenge. I had publication. The story would run online at exactly 8:00 p.m. on Michael's wedding day, timed perfectly to Sofia's toast, to maximum guest attendance, to the moment when their humiliation would be most complete and most public. Now, as I watch Sofia bask in her moment of petty triumph, I can't help but smile. She thinks she's won. She thinks she's finally put the simple widow in her place. She has no idea that in 30 seconds, every phone in this room is going to buzz with a news alert that will destroy her life forever. 6 weeks before Michael's wedding, I cornered Sofia at Isabella's bridal shower in the country club's sunroom. The afternoon light streamed through tall windows as 30 women cooed over lingerie and kitchen gadgets, their laughter masking the desperation in my voice. "Sofia, we need to talk privately." I touched her elbow, guiding her toward the empty hallway where oil paintings of dead club presidents watched our family drama unfold. I'd brought everything: bank statements, transfer records, the incorporation documents for Papadakis Holdings LLC that I'd obtained through a contact at the Secretary of State's office. My hands trembled slightly as I spread them on the marble-topped side table. "I have the documentation," I said quietly, keeping my voice level. "Just return what's left, and we can pretend this never happened." Sofia glanced at the papers with theatrical boredom, as if I were showing her grocery receipts. "Elena, darling, you're embarrassing yourself. These are complex financial instruments that—" $253,000, Sofia, that's what you took. I pointed to the highlighted totals. "I know about Alexis's campaign. I know about the shell company. Just give me back whatever's left and I won't pursue this." For a moment, something flickered in Sofia's eyes, surprise, maybe, that I'd done my homework. But it vanished quickly, replaced by that familiar condescending smile. "You always were too emotional for business, Elena. This is exactly why Dmitri asked me to handle these matters." "Dmitri never asked you to steal from me." "Steal?" Sofia's voice rose just enough to carry back toward the party. "How dare you accuse me of theft when I've been trying to help you?" I could hear the shower conversation pause in the next room. My cheeks burned with the realization that our private conversation was becoming public. "Elena, you're being hysterical," Sofia announced, her voice now loud enough for everyone to hear. She guided me back toward the sunroom, her grip firm on my arm. "Ladies, I'm so sorry. My poor sister has been having such a difficult time since Dmitri passed." 30 faces turned toward us with expressions ranging from curiosity to pity. I felt my carefully planned private confrontation dissolving into public spectacle. "The grief has really affected Elena's thinking," Sofia continued, settling me into a chair like I was an invalid. "She's been making up stories about money that was lost in bad investments. It's so sad to see someone you love become confused like this." "I'm not confused," I said, but my voice sounded weak against Sofia's theatrical performance. "I have documentation." "Oh, sweetheart." Sofia's tone dripped with false sympathy. "You've been showing everyone these same papers for weeks, seeing conspiracies that don't exist. We're all worried about you." I looked around the room at the other women, my neighbors, family friends, people who'd known me for decades. Some nodded sympathetically at Sofia's words. Others looked uncomfortable but said nothing. No one came to my defense. "Maybe you should see someone," suggested Mrs. Antonelli from down the street. "Grief counseling helped my sister after her husband died." "There's nothing wrong with my mind," I insisted, but the damage was done. Sofia had successfully painted me as the unstable widow seeing threats where none existed. After the other women returned to gift opening, Sofia leaned close to my ear. "Elena, family harmony is so important for grandchildren to have stable relationships with their grandparents. It would be such a shame if Michael and Isabella felt they needed to. Limit your access to future babies because of your mental state." The threat hit me like a physical blow. She wasn't just stealing my money, she was threatening to steal my future grandchildren too. 4 months before the wedding, I sat in David Harrison's law office, watching my last hope for reasonable resolution crumble. David had been Dmitri's lawyer for 15 years, a man I trusted completely. But even he couldn't work miracles. "I'm sorry, Elena." Sofia covered her tracks too well. David spread the documents across his mahogany desk, his expression grim. "She has power of attorney documentation that appears legitimate, and the transfers were made gradually over several months. Any prosecutor would say it looks like normal financial management. But it's theft, I insisted. She never had permission to use that money for Alexis's campaign. Proving that in court would require us to demonstrate criminal intent, and Sofia's lawyers, and she'll have good ones, will argue she was making investments on your behalf that simply didn't pan out. David leaned back in his leather chair, looking older than his 60 years. By the time we could prove anything, you'd be bankrupt from legal costs. We're talking 3 to 5 years of litigation, minimum $200,000 in legal fees, and even then, success isn't guaranteed. So she just gets away with it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the legal system isn't your best option here. David's eyes held a hint of something else, understanding, maybe, of what he wasn't saying directly. Someone with your background might find other ways to seek justice. He was right. The legal system was designed for people who played by the rules. But Sofia had abandoned the rules the moment she forged Dimitri's signature on those transfer authorizations. 3 months ago, I sat across from Marcus Chen in his cluttered newspaper office, surrounded by the controlled chaos of a daily publication. Marcus had been my editor back in the 1990s, and he still owed me favors from the City Council Corruption Series that had won his paper a state journalism award. You want to break your own family? Marcus raised an eyebrow, but I could see the interest in his eyes. That's cold, even for you, EK. I want to break the biggest story of my career. The byline will be EK Matthews. The name change was deliberate, close enough to my maiden name to feel authentic, different enough that family wouldn't immediately connect it to Elena Costa's, the quiet widow. I'd been planning this identity for months. Local politicians' campaign funded by money stolen from grieving widow, Marcus mused, already writing the headline in his head. The family connection makes it even better. When do you want to run it? Michael's wedding reception, 8 p.m. exactly. I want maximum impact when the family's all together. Marcus grinned, the same predatory smile I remembered from our investigative days. You always did have perfect timing. I'll set up the digital alerts for 8 p.m. sharp. Every phone in that room will buzz simultaneously. And Marcus, I want full multimedia. Photos of the documents, campaign finance records, everything. Make it impossible to deny. Consider it done. Welcome back, EK. 4 weeks before the wedding, I stood in my kitchen at 2 a.m., signing the second mortgage papers that would save Michael's wedding. The catering bill was $8,000 overdue. The florist wanted $3,000 by morning. The venue required final payment within the week. Meanwhile, Sofia's Facebook page showcased her recent vacation to Italy, a trip funded, I was certain, by my husband's death benefits. The photos showed her and Alexis dining at expensive restaurants, touring vineyards, celebrating his successful campaign launch with champagne that cost more than most people's monthly rent. I signed the loan documents with steady hands, knowing I was risking my home to pay for my son's happiness. But Michael would have his perfect wedding, even if it bankrupted me. He deserved that much, and he deserved to remain innocent of his aunt's crimes for as long as possible. The cruel irony wasn't lost on me. I was borrowing against my house to pay for a wedding while watching my stolen money fund victory celebrations on social media. But soon, very soon, those celebrations would turn to ash. 3 weeks before the wedding, I met with Zoe Chen, Marcus's tech-savvy daughter who ran a digital media company. The Riverside Manors event coordinator had recommended her for full-service digital integration, whatever that meant. I want complete control over every screen in this venue, I told Zoe as we toured the reception hall. Slideshow displays, announcement monitors, even the screens in the bar area. Everything needs to be synchronized for a specific moment. Zoe nodded, making notes on her tablet. No problem, we can set up a centralized control system. What kind of content are you planning to display? A special announcement. It needs to go live at exactly 8 p.m., overriding whatever else might be showing. Zoe tested every connection, mapped every display, and programmed the override sequence. She had no idea she was helping orchestrate the most public family destruction in recent memory. To her, this was just another wedding tech job. But to me, it was the delivery system for justice. 2 weeks before the wedding, I visited my 82-year-old mother Maria in her assisted living apartment, hoping for support, for validation, for someone in the family to believe me. Instead, I found Sofia's poison had reached even there. "Kukla, sit down," my mother said, using the pet name that usually warmed my heart. "Sofia came to see me yesterday. She's worried about you." My stomach dropped. "What did she tell you?" "That you've been acting strange since Dmitri died, making accusations, seeing conspiracies. She showed me papers you've been carrying around, claiming she stole money." My mother's weathered hands patted mine. "We all grieve differently, Elena, but this isn't healthy." "Mama, I'm not imagining this. Sofia really did steal." "Maybe Sofia is right, Kukla. Maybe you should let her handle the family finances from now on. You're not thinking clearly." The betrayal cut deeper than Sofia's theft. My own mother, the woman who'd raised me to be strong and independent, was suggesting I surrender my autonomy to the very person who'd robbed me. I left without arguing, knowing anything I said would only reinforce Sofia's narrative about my unstable mental state. But driving home, I felt something harden inside me. If my own family wouldn't believe the truth, then I'd make the truth impossible to ignore. 1 week before the wedding, I was driving to the final dress fitting when the radio announcement stopped me cold. Local businessman Alexis Papadakis will officially launch his mayoral campaign this Monday at a celebration dinner, 1 day after his cousin's wedding reception. I pulled over, hands shaking as the full scope of Sofia's manipulation became clear. The timing wasn't coincidental. Michael's wedding wasn't just a family celebration, it was the warm-up act for Alexis's political launch. Sofia had been planning to use my son's happiness as the opening ceremony for her son's ambition. She didn't just steal my money. She planned to destroy me on my son's wedding day to celebrate her son's political launch. The wedding reception would be full of local politicians, business leaders, potential donors, exactly the audience Alexis needed to see him as a successful, family-oriented candidate. And there I'd be, the grateful widow sister, publicly supporting the family that had helped me through my difficult time. But Sofia had miscalculated. She thought she was setting the stage for Alexis's triumph. Instead, she'd arranged for his destruction to have the perfect audience. 3 days before the wedding, Sofia arrived at my house with Marcus Chen, not the editor I knew, but his cousin who worked for the local lifestyle magazine. The irony was perfect. She was unknowingly bringing media to the very person planning to destroy her through media. "Elena, I want you to meet Marcus Chen from the Riverside Gazette," Sofia said, her arm around my shoulders in a performance of sisterly affection. "He's going to cover Michael's wedding for the society page and maybe do a little piece about Alexis's campaign launch." Marcus, the cousin, not my editor, smiled politely while Sofia continued her performance. "Oh, don't mind Elena. She's been having a hard time since Dmitri died. We're all looking after her now." "It's wonderful to see family supporting each other," Marcus said, taking notes. "Oh yes, we take care of our own," Sofia replied, squeezing my shoulder possessively. "Elena's been through so much, but we've made sure she's financially secure. Family is everything." I smiled and nodded, playing the grateful widow while internally cataloging every lie for the real story that would run in 48 hours. Sofia was so confident in her narrative that she was literally bringing journalists to document her version of events. She had no idea that in 3 days, a different Marcus Chen would publish a very different story about our family's financial arrangements. And this Marcus, the innocent cousin, would have a front row seat to watch Sofia's world collapse in real time. The trap was set, the audience was arranged, and Sofia had unknowingly invited the media to witness her own destruction. The bridal suite buzzes with feminine energy when I arrive at 11 a.m., my arms full of the emergency sewing kit Isabella requested. But the moment I step through the door, the conversation stops. My female relatives, cousins, aunts, family friends, exchange glances that speak volumes. "Oh, Elena," my cousin Anastasia says with that careful tone people use around broken things. "We were just discussing the reception timeline. Maybe you should sit down." Isabella looks radiant in her gown, but even she seems uncomfortable, as the women form a protective circle around her. I've been relegated to the periphery of my own son's wedding preparations. Actually, my Aunt Penelope interjects, Sofia mentioned you've been under tremendous stress lately. Maybe you should let her handle the reception details, dear. You've been under so much stress. The words hit like a slap. These women who have known me for decades, who have shared holidays and birthdays and family milestones, now look at me like I'm fragile, unreliable, a problem to be managed. I'm fine, I say quietly, but no one meets my eyes. Of course you are, sweetheart, Anastasia soothes, but Sofia has everything so well organized. Why don't you just focus on enjoying the day? I watch my own family treat me exactly as Sofia planned, like I'm too fragile to handle reality, too unstable to be trusted with important tasks. The isolation is complete. Even in a room full of relatives, I stand utterly alone. But they have no idea that in 9 hours, their careful treatment of poor Elena will transform into something else entirely. The ceremony is beautiful. Michael looks handsome in his charcoal tuxedo, Isabella glows in her grandmother's lace, and I manage to cry at all the appropriate moments. But during the cocktail hour afterward, as guests mingle on the terrace overlooking the gardens, I overhear the conversation that changes everything. Sofia stands near the bar with Marcus Chen, not my editor, but his cousin from the lifestyle magazine. She's gesturing animatedly, her voice carrying just enough for me to catch the words that make my blood freeze. Get a good spot for the announcement after my toast, she tells him, checking her diamond watch. This will be the perfect launchpad for the mayoral campaign. All the right people are here, everyone's in a celebratory mood, and Elena's been so grateful for our family support. Marcus nods, scribbling notes. What angle do you want me to take? Family values, community support, how Alexis represents the next generation of leadership. Oh, and make sure you mention how we've all rallied around Elena since Dimitri's death. It shows our commitment to taking care of our own. The casual cruelty of it steals my breath. She's not just planning to use my son's wedding as Alexis's campaign launch. She's planning to use my grief, my supposed gratitude, as a campaign talking point. The woman who stole my husband's death benefits is going to publicly position herself as my protector. She's turning my son's wedding vows into a mockery, while planning to announce her son's campaign with my stolen money. That's the moment. Standing there in my navy dress, listening to Sofia commoditize my pain for political gain, I stop trying to minimize damage. I stop hoping for family reconciliation. I commit fully to public justice, consequences be damned. At 6 p.m., between the ceremony and reception, I find Zoe Chen adjusting the final display screens in the reception hall. The venue has been transformed, twinkling lights, elegant florals, round tables set for 200 guests. It looks like a fairy tale. It's about to become a nightmare. Everything's ready, Mrs. Costas, Zoe reports, checking her tablet. All screens are synchronized, and the override sequence is programmed for exactly 8 o'clock. You'll have complete control. I nod, my hands surprisingly steady, as I review the technical setup one final time. Then I step into the venue's business office and dial my editor's direct line. Marcus, it's E.K. Matthews. I need to make one crucial change to tonight's story. What kind of change? We're already set for the 8 p.m. digital release. I take a deep breath, knowing this decision will change everything forever. The byline won't be E.K. Matthews. It will be my real name, Elena Costas. Silence on the other end. Then, Elena, that's going to be nuclear. Your whole family will know you wrote it. Good, I want them to know exactly who destroyed them. I want Sofia to understand that the simple widow she's been gaslighting is the same journalist who brought down 3 city councilmen in the 90s. At exactly 8:00 p.m., every screen in this venue will show the truth, and everyone will know exactly who wrote it. Marcus chuckles grimly. You always did have brass balls, EK, consider it done. Elena Costas it is. I hang up and return to the reception hall, where early guests are beginning to arrive. Sofia holds court near the head table, resplendent in her Chanel suit, accepting compliments on the beautiful venue and elegant arrangements, all paid for with my second mortgage while she spent my stolen money on Italian vacations. But in 2 hours, her reign ends forever. This morning at 10 a.m., 12 hours before this moment of triumph, my entire plan nearly collapsed. I'd arrived early for final testing, only to watch Zoe's face go pale as she stared at her laptop screen. "Mrs. Costas, we have a problem. The venue's Wi-Fi system crashed overnight, and they can't get it back online." My carefully orchestrated justice, months of planning, the story that would expose Sofia's crimes, all of it depended on internet connectivity that had simply vanished. What does that mean for the 8 o'clock display? Without Wi-Fi, we can't access the news website. The screens will just show error messages. I felt the walls closing in. Sofia would give her toast, announce Alexis's campaign, and walk away victorious while I stood there with nothing but broken screens and empty threats. There has to be another way. Zoe was already pulling equipment from her van, mobile hotspots, signal boosters, portable routers. I can try to create a mesh network using cellular data, but it's going to be touch and go. The signal strength here is marginal. For 3 hours, we worked frantically, testing connections, adjusting equipment, watching signal bars fluctuate. At 1 p.m., we had partial connectivity. At 2 p.m., it failed completely. At 3 p.m., just as I was preparing to accept defeat, Zoe's mobile hotspot array finally locked onto a stable signal. If this doesn't work, Sofia wins everything, but if it does, justice will be served with the wedding cake. Now, watching Sofia bask in her moment of anticipated triumph, I think about how close I came to losing. How one technical failure could have left me powerless while she destroyed everything I held dear. But the connection held. The screens are ready. And Sofia has no idea that her perfect plan is about to become her perfect destruction. The clock shows 7:55 p.m., 5 minutes until justice. 7:45 p.m. 15 minutes until revelation, and I'm watching Marcus Chen, the real Marcus Chen, my editor, adjust his camera equipment near the back of the reception hall. He arrived 20 minutes ago, posing as additional media coverage that Sofia eagerly welcomed. Now I approach him with calculated desperation, my phone clutched in my trembling hands. "Mr. Chen, what if I told you the biggest political corruption story of the year is about to break in this room, and you're the only reporter here to capture it live?" Marcus looks up from his camera, recognizing the performance even as he plays along. "I'd say that sounds like quite a claim, Mrs. Costas, Elena Costas, but I used to write under the byline EK Costas." I show him my phone screen, displaying the embargoed article with my press credentials clearly visible. "This story goes live in 15 minutes, and I need someone here to document the immediate aftermath." Marcus's eyes widen as he scans the headline. "Local mayoral candidate's campaign funded by money stolen from grieving widow, an investigation by Elena Costas." Wait, you're EK Costas, the journalist who exposed the city council corruption in the 90s. The same, and Sofia Papadakis has no idea she's about to be destroyed by the simple widow she's been gaslighting for months. I gesture toward the head table where Sofia is checking her notes for her toast. She's planning to use my son's wedding reception to launch her son's mayoral campaign. Instead, she's about to watch it end forever. Marcus grins, the predatory smile of a journalist sensing blood in the water. "What do you need from me?" "Document everything." The moment the news breaks, the family's reactions, Sofia's attempts to control the narrative. This isn't just a story anymore, it's justice being served with wedding cake. 7:55 p.m. Sofia rises gracefully at the head table, her champagne flute catching the light as she taps it with her silver knife. The crystal chime cuts through the reception chatter, and 200 guests turn their attention toward her. She looks radiant in her Chanel suit, every inch the successful matriarch celebrating her family's triumph. "Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends," Sofia begins, her voice carrying that theatrical projection I've learned to despise. "I want to take a moment to thank you all for celebrating this beautiful union with us tonight." Polite applause ripples through the crowd. I sit calmly at table 6, checking my phone one final time. The article is loaded, the screens are synchronized, and in exactly 5 minutes, Sofia's world ends forever. Michael and Isabella represent everything wonderful about young love and new beginnings, Sofia continues, beaming at the happy couple. And I'm so grateful that our entire family could be here to support them, especially during these times when some of us have struggled with financial difficulties. Her eyes find mine across the room, and I see the cruel satisfaction there. This is her moment of ultimate victory, publicly humiliating the widow while positioning herself as the generous benefactor. Thank God my son Alexis is so successful, unlike some people who can't manage their finances. The words land with surgical precision, designed to remind everyone present of my supposed inability to handle my own affairs. But that's what family is for, helping each other through difficult times, even when grief affects someone's judgment about money matters. The guests shift uncomfortably, recognizing the dig but unsure how to respond. I smile serenely, my hands folded in my lap, the picture of gracious acceptance. Let Sofia have her moment. Let her dig the hole as deep as possible. To family, Sofia concludes, raising her glass high. To success, to supporting each other, and to the bright futures that await us all. As the guests raise their glasses, I check my phone one final time. 7:59 p.m. 60 seconds until justice. 8:00 p.m. exactly. As Sofia finishes her toast and the applause begins to fade, every screen in the venue flickers simultaneously. The slideshow of wedding photos vanishes, replaced by the stark black and white of a news website homepage. The headline blazes across multiple displays in letters large enough to read from anywhere in the room. Mayoral candidates campaign FUNDD money stolen from grieving widow. And below it, in smaller but unmistakable text, an investigation by Elena Costas. The first phone buzzes, then another. Within seconds, the sound builds to a symphony of notification alerts as 200 wedding guests receive the same news alert simultaneously. Conversations stop mid-sentence. Heads turn toward the screens. Someone gasps. Ladies and gentlemen, I rise gracefully from my seat, my voice carrying clearly in the suddenly silent room. I believe you're all receiving a news alert right now. Please take a moment to read it. Sofia's face has gone ashen, her champagne flute frozen halfway to her lips. Alexis frantically pulls out his phone, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and growing horror as he reads. The screens cycle through supporting images, bank transfer records, campaign finance documents, incorporation papers for Papadakis Holdings, LLC. Every piece of evidence I've gathered over months of investigation, now displayed for 200 witnesses to see. Marcus Chen moves through the crowd, his camera capturing every reaction, every shocked face, every moment of dawning realization. This isn't just a news story anymore. It's a public execution, broadcast live to everyone who matters in our community. Elena, Sofia whispers, but her voice carries in the absolute silence. What have you done? I rise from my seat with the grace of a woman who has planned this moment for months. Every eye in the room follows me as I lift my champagne glass, the crystal catching the light from the screens that still display Sofia's crimes. Sofia, you gave such a lovely toast about family and financial responsibility. I begin, my voice steady and clear. I thought I might share a few thoughts of my own. Sofia's face has drained of all color, her perfectly applied makeup now stark against her pale skin. Alexis sits frozen beside her, his phone displaying the article that's destroying his political future in real time. You see, everyone, Sofia was absolutely right about one thing: grief does affect judgment. For months, I allowed my grief to cloud my judgment about family loyalty. I trusted when I should have investigated. I stayed silent when I should have spoken. I played the role of the grateful widow when I should have been the investigative journalist I trained to be. I turned to face Sofia directly, raising my glass higher. You thought I was just a meek librarian who couldn't understand complex financial matters. You were wrong. You thought I was too broken by grief to fight back. You were wrong. You thought you could steal my husband's death benefits to fund your son's political ambitions, and I would never discover the truth. You were spectacularly wrong. The room remains absolutely silent, 200 people witnessing a reckoning 20 years in the making. Sofia, you and this family thought I was just a meek widow. You were wrong. To family and to the truth. And to the memory of my husband Dmitri, who taught me that numbers never lie, and neither should family. I drink from my glass, while Sofia stares at me in shocked recognition. The woman she's been gaslighting for months has just revealed herself as the journalist whose investigative work once toppled city governments. The woman you've been calling confused and emotional is the journalist E.K. Costas, Sofia. Remember that name? I certainly remember yours. The silence breaks like a dam bursting. Voices erupt around the room as family members demand answers, explanations, truth. My elderly mother Maria struggles to her feet, her weathered hands gripping her walker as she stares at Sofia with dawning horror. Sofia, Maria's voice cuts through the chaos, carrying the authority of the family matriarch. Tell me this story isn't true. Tell me you didn't steal from your own sister's grief. Sofia opens her mouth, but no words come. The evidence is displayed on screens throughout the room, undeniable and documented. Campaign finance records showing Papadakis Holdings LLC donations. Bank transfer authorizations bearing her forged signature. Incorporation documents listing her as the sole officer of the shell company. Elena, forgive me, my cousin Anastasia appears at my side, tears streaming down her face. I should have trusted you. Sofia, how could you steal from your own sister's grief? One by one, the family members who treated me as fragile and unreliable begin to understand. The women who'd whispered about my confusion now see the truth. I wasn't confused, I was investigating. I wasn't emotional, I was gathering evidence. I wasn't unstable, I was planning justice. Michael pushes through the crowd, his face pale but determined. Mom, is this all true? Every word, sweetheart. I'm sorry you had to learn about it this way, but your aunt left me no choice. Michael takes my hand, his grip firm and supportive. I'm proud of you, Mom. Dad would be proud too. The simple statement breaks something inside me. After months of isolation, of being treated like a problem to be managed, my own son's unconditional support feels like redemption. Around us, the family that had rallied around Sofia begins to crumble. Relatives who defended her actions now demand explanations she can't provide. The solidarity she'd built through gaslighting and manipulation dissolves as the truth spreads through the room like wildfire. As the family reckoning unfolds, Alexis makes a desperate attempt to salvage something from the wreckage. He grabs Sofia's arm, pulling her toward the exit, but Marcus Chen blocks their path with his camera rolling. Mr. Papadakis, do you have any comment on the allegations that your mayoral campaign was funded by money stolen from your aunt? This is all lies, Alexis stammers, but his voice lacks conviction. My mother would never. His phone rings, cutting off his denial. He glances at the screen and his face goes ashen. It's the mayor's office. The conversation is brief and brutal. Even from across the room, I can see Alexis's political future dying in real time. When he hangs up, his hands are shaking. They're launching an immediate investigation, he announces to no one in particular. The campaign is suspended pending review of all financial records. Sofia finally finds her voice, but it comes out as a desperate shriek. Elena, you've destroyed everything. Alexis's future, our family's reputation. I've exposed the truth, I reply calmly. You destroyed everything the moment you decided to steal from your grieving sister to fund your son's ambitions. Marcus Chen steps forward, his press credentials clearly visible. Mrs. Papadakis, Channel 7 News. Can you explain how $253,000 in life insurance benefits ended up funding your son's campaign? Sofia looks around wildly, seeking escape, support, anything to stop the avalanche of consequences. But there's nowhere to run. 200 witnesses have seen the evidence. The story is already spreading beyond this room to social media, news outlets, political circles. My family thought I was just a Meek widow, I say to Marcus's camera, my voice steady and clear. Until I exposed their crimes to everyone at my son's wedding. Sometimes the best story is the one that sets your own family free. The words will become the pull quote for every news outlet that picks up the story. By morning, they'll be the headline that defines this entire scandal. As Sofia and Alexis are escorted from the venue, not by security, but by the weight of their own shame, I watch justice finally being served. It's not the quiet family reconciliation I once hoped for. It's something better: public accountability for private crimes. The wedding reception continues around us, transformed from celebration to reckoning. But for the first time in months, I feel truly free. The Meek widow is dead. Elena Costa's investigative journalist has returned. And Sofia will spend the rest of her life knowing that the woman she tried to destroy was the architect of her own downfall.
Elena, thank you for sharing your incredible story of reclaiming your power as a journalist to expose your sister's betrayal. It shows us that grief doesn't make us weak. It can fuel the strength to demand accountability, even from family. What would you have done in Elena's shoes? Share in the comments, and if this hit home, like and subscribe for more tales of wedding day reckonings. I'm Eliza Quinn, and remember, here on Wedding Day Justice, veils off, justice on.